What makes some students so much better than others at school? Think about the characteristics of the top performers at your school. This is something that I've studied for 30 years. I've worked with hundreds of thousands of students worldwide in 39 countries. I've worked with thousands of teachers and parents. And I think it comes down to a set of dispositions or a set of skills or things that they do. The top students have learnt how to be successful. They know how to focus and concentrate in class when they need to. They can bring that total focus to bear on anything that they need to when they need to. They know how to record information effectively for review purposes and for understanding. They know how to generate that understanding whilst they're engaged with the information. They know how to review information regularly. They have summarizing techniques and they have review schedules that they use to go over information that they get in class. They're very, very good at managing their own time, their time for academic work, their time for social interaction, their time for sports and physical interaction, for family, for everything else. They know how to partition and organize their time so time isn't wasted. They are self-motivated and hard-working. In other words, they know how to work even when they don't want to. When they've got a task in front of them that they really don't want to do, they know how to generate self-motivational strategies to get themselves to get that work done, which incorporates persistence and perseverance, of course. They've learned how to persevere, how to switch on that state of perseverance that gets them through the hardest tasks. They've also learned how to handle pressure well. When exams are coming, when tests are coming, they know how to organize their time and organize their own well-being and their own methods of reducing stress inside themselves in order to be able to handle pressure well. They also know how to identify what they don't yet know. Out of information, once they're organizing it, they're studying, they're getting ready for a type of assessment, they know how to identify the parts that don't make sense to them. And they know how to formulate the right questions to ask teachers or to ask peers or to research for themselves to find out. They're very good at networking and researching. And I guess most importantly, they also know how to learn from every mistake. They know how to self-assess. They know what the quality of good work looks like. And they know they can judge the quality of their own work. They can learn from every mistake, go back, make corrections and do the same thing again, but do it differently the next time round. Now, these are all skills. These are all skills that can be learnt by every student. And that's what I've dedicated my life to doing. And of course, in the IB school context, IB schools have a huge advantage in this area because of ATL skills. ATL skills are the means by which we develop all the attributes of the learner profile through the practice of skills. Now, these are all thinking and learning skills. You'll see the basic 5 categories of skills there, which in the MYP are developed into 10 different clusters of skills, and similarly in the DP. Now, the PYP now has its own framework of ATL skills, and I'll be making a separate video on PYP ATL skills later. But what I want to show teachers and students themselves with this clip is how you can use resources that I have developed in order to specifically and explicitly learn all the ATL skills students need for success at school. These are the 2 books that I've developed for students. This is the MYP ATL Skills Workbook for students, and this is the DP ATL Skills Workbook for students. I've also now written this book, Teaching ATL Skills, specifically for teachers, to explain to them how they can develop these ATL skills in their own teaching, both implicitly and explicitly. Now, each framework of ATL skills breaks down into a number of strands. If we just look at the MYP ATL Skills Workbook table of contents, you'll see there you've got the 10 clusters of skills, and each cluster is broken up into a number of what I call strands. Now, in order to help teachers teach these skills and in order to help students learn these skills, what I've done is I've taken each of these strands and broken each one down into a series of exercises that teachers can use in the classrooms to teach these skills, and also that students can use by themselves in a self-managed way at home for homework exercises. I'll show you what I mean. If we just take a couple of clusters to begin with, the organisation skills clusters and the affective skills cluster, just imagine if all your students knew how to do this, if they knew how to set deadlines so that they achieved them, they knew how to break down large chunks of work into small manageable pieces, set dates and schedules for each of those pieces, and work on developing the strategies they need to get through each piece, to build it together, to build the assignments that you want them to complete. Imagine if they all knew how to build a good exam study timetable, but build it in such a way that it actually gets them to do the study they need to pass exams. If they all knew how to achieve goals. I mean, everyone knows how to write goals, but very few people actually know how to achieve goals, go through all the steps necessary to achieve goals. And that's just some of the organizational skills. Look at the affective skills. Imagine if every student knew exactly how to persevere, what gets them to keep on keeping on when they need to, how to deal with pressure without turning it into stress, how to self-motivate. In fact, that's probably a good one to show you just as a demonstration. Here, if your students had the MYP ATL Skills workbook or the DP ATL Skills workbook, there's a section on self-motivational skills. And here it is here. Let me show you exactly what students would do if they wanted to learn how to self-motivate. So it starts off with a mastery statement, and I always make those as simple as possible. I basically said that you're at the expert level in the use of this ATL skill set when you can get yourself to actively and positively do things that you really don't want to do. I mean, that's the essence of self-motivation, isn't it? How do you get yourself to do stuff that you don't really want to do? So the first exercise, I asked them to get clear about the distinction between intrinsic motivators and extrinsic motivators, because all too often students focus on the extrinsic motivators of exam results and grades and scores and future university success and future employment success as the means to try and motivate themselves through a certain assignment or through a certain test or through some work they have to do for school. And it just doesn't work. And yet there's a whole set of intrinsic motivators that work very, very well to help students build self-motivation and maintain that self-motivation through all the work they have to do. So that's exercise 1 on how do you build meaningful purpose to keep your levels of self-motivation high. Then the second exercise asks them to think about the difference between success and failure. And the point I'm trying to make here is the point about focusing on controllable factors rather than uncontrollable factors gives the student more agency, more control over their ability to maximize success and deal well with failure. Exercise 3 is about self-talk. And the important things about self-talk is helping students to notice their own self-talk and notice that sometimes what they're saying to themselves inside their own heads is very positive and sometimes it's very negative, and how to help this positive self-talk to flow and how to interrupt the negative self-talk and replace it with strengthening self-talk like I can handle this, I can manage this, I can get through this today. I think that learning to manage self-talk and realizing that it's not a sign of mental illness, it actually can be a sign of great mental strength if you learn how to manage and use self-talk positively. That's what that exercise is for. And it carries on through the next page there. And then the last thing is about positive thinking. And one thing I say at the beginning there, it says positive thinking doesn't mean fooling yourself. It doesn't mean being unrealistic. It just means adjusting your perspective so that you build a habit of focusing on the positive aspects of your life and the life around you. So what I'm asking students to think about is the successes they've had in their life and to list those successes and add to that list continuously. I ask them to make a list of all the things that in their life that are positive, all the things that they could be grateful for, all the things that they could be happy about, and to think about students who don't have those things in their lives, and to think about how lucky they are to have those things in their life and how they can use that positivity to build the rest of their life. And I ask them to commit random acts of spontaneous kindness. to people who are less fortunate than themselves, and to challenge themselves to do something that they've always wanted to do as often as possible. Now, these 4 exercises put together make up a good set of exercises to develop self-motivation. And the very last one is the kind of exercise which draws on their own experience. And that exercise, it asks them to think about, how do you do it now? So I say to them, remember a time when you did motivate yourself to do something that you didn't particularly want to do, but you needed to do, and you managed to get it done, whatever it was. So I'm asking them to go back into their own memory and find a time when there was something in front of them that they had to do, that they really didn't want to do, but a time when they did manage to do that. Because this can help them to draw on their own strategies, their own way of achieving success in situations that are challenging. And everyone has some times in their life when they've managed to get themselves to do something that they didn't want to. So I ask them to map that out, share it with a neighbor, with a partner, with a friend, look at what other people do, and see if they can build a strategy for the future that they can start to practice deliberately. Because you see, this is the thing about self-motivation. It's not something that just comes when it comes and goes at other times. There's nothing you can do about it. All the exercises that I teach are showing students that they can have agency, that they can take control of some of the most important factors that are required to build success at school. And for teachers, I'm sure you could see how you could use these same questions, use these same exercises in class. If every teacher had a copy of this book, that would be step 1. If every student had a copy of this book, then the teacher's role would simply be to turn to page 86 and do that exercise, and let's discuss the answers when you generate them. Of course, the ATL Skills student workbook for the DP is very similar. It has a different table of contents, and it has some of similar exercises, but some exercises that are specific for senior students. Like I'd pick out 2 here, social media identity and social media security. There's a whole set of skills for social media identity and for protecting who you are online, and for making sure that students learn how to use social media positively, to inspire them, to give them role models to move towards, to connect with, to help them to find people who are doing things that they may want to do occupationally one day, and learn what it takes to be a surgeon, to be a doctor, to be a nurse, to be a veterinary. A lot of medical examples there, but to be a dentist, to be an engineer, to be an artist, to be a musician, to be an actor, to be a dancer, to be whatever it is they want to be. They can use social media to help them orient their life towards the goals that they have in mind. So I'm not going to take you through any more examples, but I think you can see how these workbooks could be used by students themselves to do these exercises for themselves and learn these ATL skills for themselves, and also for teachers to use the books in class to get students to work through and learn their ATL skills in class. And then the last book here is the Teaching ATL Skills book for teachers, obviously, and it is what I call a complete guide, because it talks about the rationale and the purpose of ATL skills, the need for ATL skills, especially in an AI mediated world, and the design components of successful ATL skills programs, which is a lot to do with assessment is a thorny issue, and I am I'm very enthusiastic about using self-assessment for ATL skills as not only a means to help students learn the skill necessary to determine the quality of their own output, but also to relieve teachers of the burden of assessment. I don't think ATL skills are appropriate to be assessed by teachers, but I think that it is very appropriate for students to have mastery statements to work to and rubrics to use to move themselves closer and closer to that mastery level of each ATL skill. And also something about time, about how do you going to generate the time necessary to teach ATL skills? A whole lot of ideas in there about that. And then chapter 4 is a whole section of the particular ATL skills I think that are important for mental health. You can see the list there and how to teach those skills. Then how to teach metacognitive skills for self-awareness and cognitive skills for academic success. Excuse me. Then chapter 7 is about designing your own ATL Skills program to suit your context, your students, and your school. So there's an entire 2-day professional development workshop that I have delivered for many, many years now. I've now written in this book all the steps that any person could use to deliver the same workshop that I've been delivering forever, so that I don't have to do it anymore. So maybe I can finally retire. So that book, I think, is a necessity for all teachers involved in ATL Skills. So how do you get these books? Well, the MYP ATL Skills Students Workbook is available from IB Source. Here is the QR code that you can use, or you can email at the bottom. Take a quick snapshot of that if you wish. For the ATL Skills Student Workbook for DP students, here is the QR code or the email address. Suit yourself. Please take a snap of that if you wish. And here is the Teaching ATL Skills book. Here is the QR code, and please take a snap of that, or email Emeline de Jesus, who's very, very helpful, and I'm sure will help you to find the books that you want. So I hope that was useful for you. Thank you. Goodbye.